Are you guys doing anything to prepare for the arrival of lizardmen other than
I'm going
Birdie
to.
already set up traps?
I'm gonna delete this one. I'm gonna put some python. I'm gonna see if I can't put some pythons or spikes. I have iron spikes.
What? Wait. What?
Hey,
We've got a
Spikes.
kobold in the party. They're gonna make spikes.
time out before you guys start, arguing about these spikes and everything. Raazu goes into her pack and then pulls out a bag of caltrops.
Caltrops? What do you know? What? We're in their territory. We're the intruders, and now you want to put down caltrops and
Well, look.
iron
See,
spikes?
here's my plan. Right, y'all are gonna stand up here in front of the traps, and if you need to run back, you can run. And then
Wait a second. I see 2 or 3 immediate issues with that plan.
I didn't say it was a good plan.
So your plan is to lay down traps that we run into.
Well, you'll know they're there.
In the heat of the moment, that
It'll be a
doesn't
test of
mean much.
bravery.
At least they'll give them the idea that we're not. If the only people we're going to be hostile against, it's against ourselves. So maybe it's not that bad an idea.
So we've got a trip
I
line.
suppose just trying to talk is out of the question. Hopefully someone who comes back will be able to speak to us.
Well, like what you can do is you can just stand like right here in front of the like behind the triple wire, and then like hopefully they don't. And if they
And if
chase
they're
you,
friendly, just brush them out of the way, like kind of a like, oh, don't.
I'll put it this way: I'm not letting you re-roll your Tinker Tools check. So whatever
Yeah, that's
form the
fine.
trap takes. And yeah, after an hour or two, as Birdie builds and breaks down and rebuilds and argues in favor of all these wonderful traps that he's putting on this dock that's not his, and you have really no right to claim or defend. Where's everybody else positioned while... Because the first thing you notice is a light far off in this direction. Looks like torchlight, but just on the edge of perception, so a ways off yet. So now it's time to take up positions wherever you want to be.
fine. We'll just go with like one tripwire here. It's natural instinct. I got to have at least something. But I'm just gonna hide behind my rock here. They don't know I'm here.
Oh, lordy.
Are you hiding behind this rock?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and make your hide check.
I too am hiding.
You're going to be hiding back in this tree?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not going to be able to see past the dock from that position, Red, if you're that far back.
Yeah, my dark vision just barely gets about half the dog from there.
Okay.
Also, in case it's not implied, Adrex has picked back up his weapons and they're back on his person.
Okay.
You know what? No, I'm gonna non-cipher bonus. I was the one who had the best chance of understanding these people apparently, so I'll be here.
I have 17, by the way.
17 on your high check. Okay.
I'm just curious.
You're just curious. The light gets closer and closer, and you realize after a few more moments, it's one of these crude boats with several figures in it, and one of the figures on the boat is holding a torch. As it comes in the range, do you guys have a light source on the dock here?
Yeah, Adrex is still holding the torch.
A fresh torch.
Okay, so Raazu and Red would see it first because they've got dark vision as this boat actually enters within the 60 feet range. You can see the three figures on the boat are all lizard men, but the one at the front is more decked out. He's actually wearing simple armor. He's wielding a large trident in his hands. And he has some sort of adornment on one side of his head. And you see the motion in the back of the boat, and it comes to a stop. It stops approaching. And then you hear the one at the front call out very loudly, echoing out. And after that, you see more torchlights spring up in the trees and areas all around your position. Some out over the water, some on the little islands, some out in the trees behind you. And then he calls out in serviceable but not fluent Draconic. He calls out, says, "Send an emissary. One of you. Climb in a boat and come forth. The rest stay behind."
What do you say?
Adrex looks at Raazu.
Raazu nods, moves over to the boat.
I think Wendy should go. Because if there's trouble, she can fly away.
I do not speak Draconic, and also you are too far from us to be having this conversation.
So, since these boats don't have any oars or poles, I guess Rhett and Adrix will just give it a good push.
Okay.
Hope for the best.
I mean, she can pull with her halberd.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, that's right.
shallow,
It's only
so-
4 feet deep. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, Raazu, you're pulling the boat out,
Yep.
and you do speak Draconic?
Yep.
When you get about 20 feet or so away from the boat, he calls out. Instead of yelling now, since he's not yelling quite as far, he says so you can hear him. "That's far enough."
She steadies the boat with her halberd.
He tells you they have many, many eyes watching your friends.
Raazu nods.
He asks if you're armed.
Presents her halberd. And yeah. The javelins would be clearly slung across her back.
He asks why you bring word from the mountain scourge.
Well, the fact of the matter is an emissary who's carrying this message met to an untimely end along with 7 of his compatriots.
He asks who they were.
I have no clue, but Raazu will describe the scene that they came upon with the 7 with the mangled bodies and the strung up, and then a symbol that was looked to be dug out in the clearing. It's about a day's journey to the northwest.
Do you tell him that they were kobolds?
Yes.
He tells you that Huyan has asked that you be brought further into their perimeter. That she has many curiosities. And as he's telling you this, he starts climbing out of the boat. And one of his lizard men behind him, leaving only the one with the torch still in the boat. And he gives you very specific instructions.
Mm-hmm.
He tells you that you will pile all of your weapons, all of your arms and instruments of war into the boat he's sending with the torch. His escort will then take a second boat with some of your comrades, and then he will take a third boat with the rest of you.
Mm-hmm.
And in this way, you will travel to the village.
All
So
right.
he's saying one guy's going to have all your weapons in boat number 1. He's going to be with some of you in boat number 2. And his other guy's going to be with the rest of you in boat number 3.
Allow me a moment to speak with my comrades, tell them the plan.
He says that these terms are not negotiable.
I wasn't negotiating. I'm simply going to inform my people.
He nods and he gives an order to his man in the boat in the lizard folk language. And so his boat is accompanying yours back towards the dock. The rest of you standing there see 2 boats coming back.
Raazu climbs back up onto the dock and says, "We are to disarm, place all of our weapons in that in his boat."
Adrex shrugs and starts to disarm himself.
Okay. Is anybody
Yep.
keeping a weapon on their person? Is anyone trying to conceal one?
Adrex
No.
is too naive to do that.
I can always spit poison.
Yeah.
No,
I
they
have a
make
weapon.
you put your tongue in the boat.
Adrex does have a breath weapon.
Do they want me to get into the first boat?
Yeah, the idea is that some of you guys will get in one boat, some of you guys will get in the other. The third boat's just going to have your equipment or your weapons in it. What's Birdie do back there when he sees all his friends start to load up these boats?
I guess he runs up to get him. I am gonna stop and cut this though before somebody does trip and kill themselves.
So there's a little bit of apprehension from this lizard man that came back with Raazu as he sees the little kobold jump up out of the bush, cut the tripwire.
He's with us.
Yeah, he's cool. Be cool. He's cool.
And
Just give a little wave.
thusly disarmed, you guys make your way back. So who is loaded up into boat number 1?
Raazu.
Go ahead and just put yourself on these 3 boats here. One of them is going to have your equipment in it. Well, Adrex isn't riding with the equipment.
Oh, that's the equipment boat.
That's the equipment boat.
All right.
Okay. Does anybody do anything on the journey across the lake?
What's that?
Is anybody going to do or say anything on the journey across the lake?
I mean, Adrex will move his torch around so he can get a better vision of his surroundings, but nothing overt.
The water doesn't get any deeper as you travel out. Eventually, the coast fades in the distance. I mean, the lake itself is gigantic. It would take, looking at the map, I mean, it would take about half a day or more to go from one side of this lake to another, pulling yourself across in boats. A lot of the trees growing right up out of the water. You do see some scattered islands around, and it is dark, and the sounds of insects are absolutely everywhere.
I'm gonna attempt to figure out if any of them speak even like a broken common.
So, I mean, you say something to them in common. It's relatively quick to determine that no, none of them do. They speak lizard folk, and then the leader of them, can speak Draconic well enough to converse.
That's a bummer.
For what it's worth, Brick, both the wand and my magic horn are still on my person.
Okay. And he rose you to Shallow Scale Village. Shadow Scale would be like the version of this village in the Shadowfell, I would think.
Wendy wishes he
Yeah.
had some way of making himself known to people of different races.
That adds up.
Sorry.
So you come into the entrance of the village down here.
This looks familiar.
Yeah, I've used this map before.
Yes.
I approve.
The village is largely built up in the trees, high above the shallow waters, similar to the wooden structures you've seen as you came marching through the forest. There's a wooden palisade, like an outward-facing spiked palisade around the perimeter of the village. There's not really a wall to walk on, but there's enough trees all around that lizard folk could defend this palisade from the inside quite easily with ranged weapons. They bring you in through the gates. They pull you through these boats. And quick estimate, even this time of night, you see maybe 20 or 30 lizard folk tending to their business, mostly women and children. And they pull you towards this hut over here. So there's a rope ladder leading down to the water. And you can see light emanating from inside the hut. They take the boat containing your weapons around to the side of this huge tree that the structure is built in. And they rope it off. And then the leader of these lizard folk jumps out of his boat, grabs the rope ladder, hikes his way up, and bids you to follow him.
Raazu climbs up.
Sure.
I'll hop my way up.
Inside the hut, there's a fire burning in a fire pit in the center of the wood, in the center of the room, above which is suspended a large cook pot. There's some meat sizzling away in there, unidentifiable at first glance. In the room, you see a red half-dragon. Differences between a half-dragon and a dragonborn is, first of all, they're much bigger. Like, she easily has a foot on Adrex. Their breath weapons are known to be much nastier, and they can use them more often. And she has full dragon's wings. She can fly.
Ooh.
She's wearing very simple armor. You see the inside of this room, many different types of weapons along the walls. Mostly the types of things you'd see lizard folk using. Spears, tridents, different kinds of nets. And then in the center of the back of the room, a pair of short swords that don't look anything like the lizard folk would make. It's not made out of like crude wood and bone. This looks like it's very ornate, perhaps dwarven. Definitely something from the Southlands. And she stands up, and she regards you all very, very suspiciously as you enter. But she does introduce herself as Huyan, called Lizard's Whip.
Do you speak common?
She's speaking to you in very fluent Draconic.
No, that is Windy kind of sadly asking if she speaks common.
Her eyes narrow at Windy. She says, if it be necessary.
Oh, thank you.
Do you all step into the room?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a little ledge on the outside. And as you guys step in, the lead lizard man that brought you here stays just outside the door, and he's quickly flanked by the other two that had come with him. And you hear more commotion down in the water. More and more lizard folk coming around to kind of see what all the commotion is about. And Huyan tells you that she is not inclined to let servants of her father leave her lake alive.
Well, we're not servants per se. We're merely delivering a message that the servants failed to.
We just thought we could do somebody a favor.
So she asks for the story. What actually happened?
And Raazu will break it down again for her. The kobolds strung up, yicky-looking bodies.
I mean, do you tell her what you found on the winged kobold?
Windy will tell her that part because she was the one who found it.
So what do you tell her that you found?
We tell her that I saw a kobold dead. It looked like it had been running from something. It had a message in a quiver of arrows, and it looked like it had been sent from the mountains near my home.
So you leave out the part about the wand.
Windy honestly forgets.
Okay. Does anybody not forget, or we...
I say Windy forgets because I forgot.
Okay. But you are conversing in common at this point, and it's very clear that the lizard folk behind you do not understand the conversation. So are we trying to conceal the wand from her?
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally. Okay.
Like, unless someone else brings it up because Adrex also forgot.
She asks...
Yeah, Red doesn't say anything.
Red's literally... He's holding the wand, right? It's concealed on his person?
Yeah.
Like in his pack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Red is being deceptive, but she also doesn't feel emotion, so...
Windy, roll a... Let's call it history or religion. You can pick.
Alright, well, I guess I'll pick history. They're both
No.
plus zeros, but
Nobody's
Just
good
for-
at religion.
I got a
in any
1.
of your-
A 1.
In any of your campaigns.
Huyan is wearing all kinds of adornments. Dragon folk have lots of like spikes and like tendrils and things all over their faces, and some of them will decorate them in strange and bizarre ways. And no two dragon folk have the same shape, really. She has not horns, but scales that come up, curving away from her head. And she's got what look like, not wands, maybe drumsticks is a better, or no, chopsticks is a better term. And she takes them and laces them from where they were on her head and begins pulling meat out of this cook pot.
awesome.
And she sits cross-legged in front of it. And she invites you all to take your fill.
I asked her if I can have one of those sticks. I'm curious how you use it.
I mean, she's using them like chopsticks. This
Yeah,
is
but this is something Wendy doesn't know how to do, and is very curious to learn how.
I left my knife in the boat. Do you have anything to use?
She offers you some crude chopsticks. Not her nice
That's
ones. But no, she's absolutely not going to allow you to have a knife.
Raazu pulls a mess kit out of her pack, starts helping herself.
I got a 17 dexterity check, so I'm making way with these chopsticks.
Is anybody not eating?
Before I answer that, how many half dragons has Adrex possibly come across? This sounds like a very relatively rare thing.
That's up to you. But you're correct when you say that they're very rare. If you've seen them commonly, it's probably because you worked very closely in conjunction with a dragon. A half dragon would literally be
Okay.
a dragon's like firstborn children.
Okay. Then Adrex is just staring in awe.
Like half dragons, they're not even a creature in the book. They're like they give you a half dragon template to apply to any other creature that a dragon mated with. It's not really possible to tell just by looking at her what her other half is, but definitely something very tall and muscular.
So not half dragon, half ling.
Probably not halfling, no.
Halfling.
Usually dragon will mate with another creature while polymorphed, because otherwise it would just be impossible either way, really. So,
And it's a hot pot, it sounds like.
How is it?
Going in the middle.
well, the middle of this room is just supposed to be like where the tree is in the center.
Mm.
But yeah, she's got a fire pit in this room.
Okay.
Which strikes you as very dangerous.
Yeah?
Red, make a deception check.
Sure.
Because you're attempting to hide this wand.
But yeah, Adrex will take one of the chopsticks and use it as an impaling instrument and poke at the food.
If
and
you
eat it
roll a
that
1,
way.
you have to use the wand as one of the chopsticks.
So is that your 17 there?
23, yeah.
23, okay. Oh yeah, deception is one of your good ones, right? Because you're the mastermind.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. My charisma and wisdom are very high.
Will be the mastermind at level 3 anyway.
Yeah.
Right now she's the minor mind.
After you all are starting to partake of the food, she says that she's disinclined to believe your story. She says, and she's saying this to the group, not to Red in particular. Red killed his deception check, knocked it out of the park. She says that if her father had sent a message from Ten Salts, he would have sent with them a warning, a threat of some kind.
For the messenger or for you?
For her.
Perhaps the threat got out of their control and is what killed them.
Did you not see the letter?
Did I show her the I hold up the quiver and say, well, this is what the message was stuffed in the bottom of. It's got the arrows in it. Maybe he's going to poke you with arrows.
That's not in the boat.
Oh, right. No, well, would it be in the boat?
Yeah, I mean, you put all your weapons in the boat.
Okay, never mind then.
And I asked her if she saw the letter, like if the lizardmen delivered it. I don't know what it said.
She's since seen it. Yeah, when you dropped that rock, they brought it back here. She conferred with her right-hand man for a second, and then sent him back out to retrieve you. Yeah, so she's read the missive.
But yeah, Red points out that maybe they were bringing a threat, and that's what killed all of them. Maybe they lost control of it.
She's still
we didn't see any tracks in or out of there, so it's possible.
Do you know anything about about these wounds that the kobolds had on them?
She says that you all have quite a lot of questions for prisoners.
What? We're not prisoners.
And when you say you're not prisoners, you hear the 3 lizardmen behind you tap their spears against the wood, blocking your exit out of this little hut with all of your weapons and such in a boat below you.
Okay, I guess we are prisoners. Not cool, man. Not cool.
She asks, how does she know that you did not murder these emissaries from her father? How can she be sure you're not the ones who killed them?
Because we wouldn't come here to confess it. If we were really the murderers, we would have ran far away.
Wait, I thought you said earlier
silly.
you would have been happier if we had killed them.
No, she never said she would be happy if you killed them. What she said was she does not, she's not inclined to let messengers from her father leave her lake alive. Make an insight check.
All right, you got it.
Do you mind if I do that?
I'll give the party an insight check. You can make it at advantage.
I've got a +6, 18.
18.
Oh, I've got a +7, but okay.
Damn. Next time, Destil.
She really, really hates her father. And you get the sense that there's been a great estrangement between the two of them. At the same time, though, you sense a great amount of pride in her bloodline. If her father's messengers had come here, she wouldn't have let them leave alive. But if she received word that you had killed her father's messengers, she would exert vengeance over them.
So it's an only she gets to kill them sort of thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's her brothers. So she is decidedly, by appearances at least, half dragon, half lizard man.
Oh, you make a nature check at disadvantage.
Okay.
Adrex actually said that, by the way. If we actually killed your emissaries, we wouldn't come to your village and then proceed to confess to it.
16.
16? Really hard to tell.
Okay.
It had to have been something big and muscular.
Okay.
Well, I'll ask this, too. Does anybody in the group have you ever met a half-dragon before, or is she the first one?
No.
First one.
First.
That kobold corpse, but otherwise no.
Well, the kobold corpse is a kobold, not a half-dragon.
Did one of the kobold corpses have wings?
Yes, but there are winged kobolds. Some kobolds just have wings.
Okay. Never mind then.
In fact, I offered Birdie wings, and he said he didn't want them. He said flying is for mooks.
I don't remember that.
It was before.
Also, kobolds make the best mooks.
Goblins kind of make the best mooks. So Adrex says, if we killed them, why would we come here to confess?
Yeah. It seems absurd that if we actually kill them, we would then proceed to go to wherever we are now and be like, yeah, no, those dudes, yeah, we're responsible for them. Like, no, we wouldn't do that. That's absurd.
She says, perhaps you were expecting some kind of reward. To pass yourself off as people in my father's employ.
But we didn't. Like, we didn't pass ourselves off as people in your father's employ.
So who are you then?
What is... I need to come up with a name for my monastery.
Preferably something with letters in it.
You can call me Red. That's Red's entire response to what are you then?
Okay. What seems to be tripping her up is if you're not opportunistic kobold murderers and you're not messengers directly from her father, who are you people and why were you in these lands to begin with?
Yuan-ti says, I'm an acolyte of the Last Breath Monastery.
Oh, is that
and
what we're
I'm
calling it?
honored. I like the Last Breath Monastery. That's a good name.
Okay.
Especially for Kenzay Aarakocra monks. And I'm on a journey to do good across the land by helping others. And I saw the opportunity.
We all are. Not for the monastery. No. But we're all looking to do good things. That part.
And Wendy will nod at that part.
Birdie's just here.
She looks back at Adrex and she asks, "And who was your sire?" She's asking what dragon begat your clan.
And Adrex shrugs. Some white dragon long ago. It's a tribe. I don't know the details. Never really cared to.
She then addresses Wendy. And she didn't like Wendy from the beginning because Wendy's like, "I gotta speak common. I don't know any good languages." She addresses Wendy and says, "If you studied at Last Breath, do you not consider yourself an enemy of the Mountain Scourge?"
That's a good question. Have I heard of the Mountain Scourge, Brickroad?
Your first-hand knowledge is of all these kobolds and whatever living in the tunnels that...
Yeah.
I mean, they harass Aarakocra villages and whatnot. The thing is, the kobolds tend to not go out into the open and climb into the highest peaks, and the Aarakocra tend not to go down into the tunnels. But it's very possible that they have a dragon patron deep in the earth.
And I essentially relate that generally, from my experience, the kobolds have mostly kept down below the ground, not come out into the open air. And when I say open air, I dramatically billow my cloak.
She informs you that the Mountain Scourge has had designs of taking control of... did we name that lake up there? I don't think we did. The lake at the source of Beck's Creek.
Oh, no, we did name that.
We will at some other point.
Oh, the lake at the source. No, we didn't.
She says that there is a red dragon, her lord father, that lives deep beneath the mountains in that area. And he's had designs on taking control of that lake for a very long time.
And I say in response that if they've been designs for a very long time, then perhaps he has found reasons not to make his attack.
Or perhaps he's preparing to, now that he's summoning me home.
And Wendy nods, that's certainly possible. Are you planning on going home and helping him?
She says she's going to meditate on this turn of events. She says they're going to continue to confiscate your weapons, and that none of you are to leave the confines of the palisade. She asks if she's going to have to clip your wings.
When you say the palisade, you mean the walls, not the individual
walls
buildings.
surrounding it here.
And I shake my head. I say I'm interested to find out how you live here.
She barks some orders to the lizard folk standing behind you guys in their terrible swamp language. And she tells you that her people are not learned in the ways of comforts but that you'll have safety here until she comes to a decision.
Very well.
No, thank you for your food.
Yeah, that food was way better than anything at the monastery.
But was it
It's
better
tasty.
than raw scythe beak?
I mean, that was so fresh.
She doesn't give you guys a hut to sleep in. They have, while you all were working, some lizard folk down on the ground were laying boards out in one of the drier sections of the lake at the base of one of these trees. So still pretty wet and terrible and uncomfortable, and not nearly large enough for all 5 of you to lay down at once.
Yeah, I'm absolutely not going to do that. I'm going to perch on one of these trees. Like a bird.
They don't set a specific guard on you, but at any given point, I mean, you're seeing there's a lot of activity. Lizard men, or at least partially nocturnal, and there's 4 or 5 foot deep water all throughout the area. So a lot of times it surprises you that lizard man will be swimming very closely nearby and then suddenly come up out of the water without you noticing. They can get that close. That being said, you guys otherwise have free reign over the village. What do you do for the rest of the night? We'll start there.
I don't know. When sleeping in the mud sounds like a really fun idea.
Yeah, they basically just give you this little... They've laid down some logs down in the mud under these trees. They've packed it down.
Yeah, no, Adrex is all about that. Like, he takes off his armor and just... He's going to sleep in mud tonight, and the idea just sounds amazing to him.
Raazu also doffs her arm.
I'll take a watch if you want to get some rest.
Okay.
Mostly because there's not enough room for all of us to lay down here.
You can cuddle up with Adrex, though. It'll be fine.
Sleep on top of him.
He's probably down.
I mean, think about all those, like, awesome mud baths you see and mud spas and shit. Like, yeah, no, this sounds like a great idea.
A lot of spas where you come from.
Wendy spends a lot of time getting mud off of her wings.
And go ahead and take the benefits of the long rest. It's a very
For the long
uncomfortable
rest.
sleep. But you're relatively safe, and you're able to recline if you want to. And just after sunup, just after the crack of dawn, a lot more activity starts in the village. The male lizard folk, their jobs are to go and hunt, scavenge for food and supplies, patrol the areas, set traps. As you guys are waking up, one of their patrols is coming back. They've got a long spit that they're carrying between them, and tied up on it is a severely wounded, dying boar that was caught in one of their traps. They're going to bring in here and butcher up.
Rad.
What are you guys doing during the day?
So Adrex has not thought long term about his plan.
Mhm.
So during the day, he's going to try and figure out a way to get the mud off him now.
How to get the mud off?
Yeah, because now he's just muddy and no way to remove the mud.
I mean, you've got this lake surrounding you. If you climb down into the lake,
For sure, and he's going to try that.
yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like 80% working, but there's always
Yeah.
like new mud that finds its way on, and now his clothes are just really wet on top of it.
I just remember last time I used this map, you were like, I'm going to go find jam.
What's a jam? Yeah, no, I almost said that too. It's just like, this is the jam hunting right here.
Do you really,
But-
you really want lizard jam?
Birdie's
Wendy's
gonna
going to learn how to go make hot pot.
How to make what?
How to make hot pot. Lizard man hot pot.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually going to go to the hunters as they're addressing this boar and ask if there's a reason they bring it back alive instead of killing it. In
Raazu-
Draconic.
Go
Raazu
ahead
is
and
going to
make
attempt.
your wisdom check at disadvantage. What's Raazu doing?
Raazu is going to attempt to lead Birdie in a series of calisthenics.
Yeah, 7.
A 7?
On wisdom.
It's very difficult to communicate with them. Once in a while, you find some common words. Lizard folk is definitely an offshoot of Draconic at some point in history, but you get the sense that there's not any reason why they bring animals back alive. They don't really think about it much. They pull the animal out the trap, and as long as it's not going to escape, they lash it to a spit, drag it back, or drag it into a boat, or whatever they have to do. There's not really a practical reason behind it.
When do they kill it?
It was impaled. You see its wounds. It was impaled on a spike trap out in the woods.
Right, but they brought it back alive. When do they actually kill it?
When they begin butchering it, they bleed it out.
Okay.
Stripping the meat off its bones.
Birdie's going to sneak away from the calisthenics and go poke his head in like all the little huts, with as close as he can get without getting like kicked or something.
So you're going to climb up the trees? Are you climbing up the ladders that are dangling from like the little porches out in front of these huts?
Sure.
Okay. There's no way to do that sneakily, is why I ask.
Well, I'm just poking my head in. I'm not actually going to go in. I'm scouting the place out.
Within a few hours of your arrival, the village is pretty small. Most of them have learned that you were brought in, and right now you're under the protection of the Lizard's Whip. And so nobody stops you from climbing up to these huts and poking your head into each one. And the standard of living of lizard men is very, very low. The huts that you look into, like, they're not housing structures. Like, there's not like a lizard man family in here with Ma and Pa and Grandpa Lizard Man. Mostly they're for storing things that can't be left down in the swamp. In one, you see some scavenged goods that you find. People who travel through the forest and die, adventurers, or maybe the odd caravan, or maybe an orc war party that got waylaid, and they'll bring those things back here to be used. Other places you see dried and salted meat and various other supplies. They have a very subsistence culture outside of that.
Yeah, that's all Birdie wanted to do. He just wanted to get away from the calisthenics.
Okay. These two huts are actually built down into the water, and these ones have doors on them. Not super sturdy doors, and from what you look at them, you don't see like a traditional kind of lock. They're just these very shoddy-looking wood or maybe wicker doors that you could just open up. Do you check either of those?
No lock. You got a pretty good stealth score, right?
He does, but he's not going to be able to open one of these doors without somebody seeing him.
Oh.
Keelian, you're a bad influence.
What? Who's Keelian?
I don't know.
The ghost of Keelian watches us all. So yeah, is Birdie going in, or is anybody going to go into one of these two huts?
I mean, can you see through the doors? Or is there any obvious windows?
No, you can't. These are just, they're kind of like mud huts with thatched roofs. They're clearly not permanent structures. They clearly need a lot of maintenance, but no, they are opaque. You can't see through them.
Okay. No, I don't want to go into them. I don't want to anger. You don't anger a dragon that is bigger than you.
Which are the ones that are locked?
The two that are not in trees. These are down, built actually into the water.
Which dragons are smaller than you?
That's
Baby
a good
ones?
question.
Maybe?
I don't think any dragons are smaller than a kobold.
Not even a wormling.
No, I think they're still like the size of very large dogs.
Like even a dragon egg isn't smaller than a kobold. Does anybody do anything to interfere with any of the lizard men over the course of the day?
No, but I'll eavesdrop for all the good it'll do me since I don't speak a language I really understand.
Are you trying to learn anything in particular?
Yeah, I'm interested in any comings or going, any like news of the outside world mostly, or if anyone if they have any travelers, like lizard folk travelers who have come or gone or getting back, just basically information about places other than here.
Make an investigation check.
So 13.
Okay. Not commonly, but sometimes some of the lizard men, you catch conversation in Draconic. And that piques your interest, because there'd be no reason for two lizard men to converse in Draconic unless they don't want the other lizard man in earshot to hear what they're saying. And over near to one of these little wrangling areas where they breed and raise insects and things, and mushrooms and different kinds of edible fungi, they're milling about. There are a couple of patrolmen that are listening to them. Their job is to go out to the far perimeter of the lake, out to where Huyan considers her borders to be. And what they're discussing are lashes that they've come across on some of the trees out near that perimeter. And thinking about it, you've seen evidence of this kind of lash before on the dead kobolds that you found. And they are equally as mystified as to the source of these, what's leaving these wounds on the trees. They don't know if there's a monster or an infiltrator or what.
After hearing that, I'll head back to where the group is on the boards and make sure the half-dragon is around, and then tell them that in common. I overheard some of the lizard folks out on expeditions. They saw wounds on trees similar to the ones we saw in kobolds.
Okay.
They don't know anything. They don't know any more about it than we do.
All right.
Does anybody attempt to make contact with the half-dragon or the lizard chief man at all during the day?
Once Red brings that up to me, Raazu would, yes.
Okay, which one?
Her second in command.
Okay. And you find him feeding in the back with several other of his lizard men. And he sees you approach. He stands up. You see he's wearing, now that it's daylight, you can see him very clearly. He's wearing this very colorful adornment on one half of his head, made out of feathers and colorful sticks and kind of woven together like wicker. The other side of his head, you see he bears great scars. Make a history check. You're a hobgoblin. I'd let you make this one.
Yeah, but apparently I didn't pay too much attention in history class.
No good?
I'm rolling now.
Okay.
Hobgoblin.
Nat 20.
Nat 20.
20 on die. That's my history. Apparently I've paid attention now.
Quite commonly, marching in the goblin hordes like you did, particularly successful or mean war chiefs would wear these scourges as a badge of honor. And that's what this reminds you of. He has made no effort to cover up these battle scars on the side of his face and the top of his head. And he stands as you approach him. And you can't approach like a badass, I'm sorry. You're wading through 4 feet of water. There's no way to slosh forward without looking a little silly. What do you tell him?
One of my men heard something interesting that one of your guardsmen speaking about, and I thought I'd come ask you about it in more detail. Maybe we can compare notes, because some of the things that he was describing, that your man was describing, sound very familiar to me.